Yes, they have the best record in baseball, and yes, they've played well of late. You still don't want to be dropping series. That's not the goal here.
Why are you being so negative? You're being too negative.
It feels like that could wind up being a reality at this point. You don't want to drop a series to an Angels team that's not very good.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. With me as usual is my host, Brian McKeon. Brian, there you are.
Does it feel like every doubleheader goes 1-1?
Yeah, it's not. People think it's easy to sweep a doubleheader. It's not. We'll talk about that in segment 1. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. On today's show, we preview the finale between the Yankees and the Angels. Nestor Cortez is pitching. We'll tell you why. We will talk about Marcus Stroman working on some things. We will talk about Clark Schmidt throwing to actual humans, which is pretty good, which means he can be back in September. And yeah, let's start with the doubleheader. So yeah, doubleheaders aren't easy to, I think, actually, I shouldn't say that. I think split doubleheaders are easier to sweep because there's more of a break between the games. I think when you go from one almost directly into the other, it's a little harder to do to sweep the doubleheader. Not that it's unheard of, but it's just, people, I don't know why people expect teams to sweep doubleheaders. It's not that easy to do.
Well, especially when you ask your bullpen to get 12 outs at the end of the game. It makes it so impossible to be able to get to the second game because your bullpen's already taxed after the first game. And you really feel like, because it really is almost, it's like playing an 18-inning game. Mm-hmm. In reality, that's what it is. So you're really not going to be willing to use your a lot of your bullpen guys used in the first game. In the second game, makes it a lot more challenging, especially from a managerial standpoint. It does feel like every doubleheader you watch like this, that is a single admission doubleheader like this, it feels like it always ends up being 1-1, just naturally. And I guess there are circumstances where it isn't. It always feels like these ones wind up 1-1, and this actually wound up hurting the Yankees for once. Usually you think, oh, there's a built-in off day. There's a little bit of value there. There's no value for the Yankees in this. This actually hurt the Yankees a lot because of the fact that once this wound up being a split, now you have to win the third game. And unfortunately, you have Nestor, who hasn't pitched. I mean, he pitched well in the last game, but overall hasn't pitched well lately. You're going to have Nestor Cortez going in a game where you're trying to win a series against the Angels because, yes, they have the best record in baseball, and yes, they've played well of late. You still don't want to be dropping series. That's not the goal here.
Why are you being so negative? You're being too negative.
It feels like that could wind up being a reality at this point. You don't want to drop a series to an Angels team that's not very good.
Right.
If they get the game in later on today, because Stacey, I don't know. I mean, I know we're both shocked they got both these games in. Yeah. But I don't know how they're going to get tomorrow's game in or later.
Yeah, tomorrow's supposed to be, so Thursday's supposed to be just straight rain.
Oh, yeah.
So who knows what is going to happen there. We might not even have a game to talk about. But let's talk about the first game. Let's talk about Heel, because it was a rough game for him. He had like 55 pitches in the first 2 innings. He just could not. But he still ended up getting through 5, scoreless. I know he walked a bunch, and I know it wasn't his best start, but this is the type of start you need to see from him because of how bad it was going for him. The fact that he was able to push through and get through 5 and kind of help them out, because with the way he was going in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, he's only going to last like 3 innings. This is going to be the worst possible scenario for a doubleheader, is having your starter in the first game only go like 2 or 3 innings. And that's what it looked like it was going to be. I just liked how he worked out of that and did okay. It wasn't a great start. He had nothing. I mean, he was having so much trouble throwing the ball. It was unbelievable watching him, but I kind of liked the way he was able to get through the game. That showed a lot of grit on his part, and I have to give him credit for that.
We've seen Garrett Cole put up starts like this before, right? Where he doesn't have it, his stuff's not there, he's throwing a lot of pitches, and he's battling and battling. And then somehow you look at the final stat line, and it's 5 1/3, it's 1 run, it's 7 hits, it's 8, it's 3 walks, 4 walks, but somehow he got through it. I think that's what the best pitchers in baseball do. That's what the aces do, right? They battle and they get, at worst case, they're going to give you a chance to win that day. And that's the benefit of having a pitcher. And that's why teams find it valuable to pay a pitcher $35 million a year, because like that pitcher is going to give you every 5 days a chance to win, no matter what, whether he's got it or he doesn't have his stuff. And you saw that out of Luis Gil. I think a start like this makes the Yankees' decision of what they're going to do with him in the postseason 10 times harder. Because if he can put together these kind of performances, this is a playoff start, Stacey. Like, that's what you need. Because you don't know in a playoff game. A playoff game could be on a random Wednesday. It could be on a random Thursday where you don't have your best stuff that day. That's just how it is. Sometimes you just wake up and you're not gripping the baseball right and you don't have your stuff that day. And that happens. That can happen in a regular playoff game. And if you can show that in a day where you don't have your stuff, and most pitchers say they know in their bullpen and during warm-ups, I know David Cohn said that all the time. If you know that you don't have your stuff, you're never going to go to your manager in a playoff game and say, listen, I don't have it today. I can't pitch today. If you know you don't have your stuff and you can still go out there and do 5 scoreless, even though you're giving up a lot of walks, but you're battling and do something like this, it almost shows that shouldn't he be starting instead of being in the bullpen? I don't know. I still think it's going to be more valuable team-wise to have him be coming out of the bullpen as opposed to starting. But regardless, I mean, this makes their decision a lot more difficult than I think they wanted it to be. To battle like this, that's a playoff start right there. That's what you need to have a pitcher in the playoffs.
So here's a fun fact. Luis Gil has made 14 starts this season with 1 or 0 runs allowed. It's the most in Major League Baseball. And if he gets 3 more of those types of starts this season, he will set a new Yankees franchise record for such starts by a rookie.
Doesn't it show how good he was to start the year?
Yeah.
Because he had those 3 or 4 middling starts in the middle of the year that kind of had him struggle. If he doesn't have those starts, his ERA is in the 1s. That's how good he's been all year.
And if he doesn't have those starts, he's in the All-Star game.
Well, he should have been there anyway, especially over Clay Holmes.
Yeah.
But he's been great. He's been honestly, compared to the amount of guys on the team that haven't performed nearly close to their baseball card, he's been tremendous. Like, he's been the complete opposite of the flip side of performing way more than his baseball card.
Right. Pitching wise, after Gil, De Los Santos pitched, Cousins pitched, Weaver pitched, Holmes pitched. Cousins gave up a 2-run home run to Zach Neto, who had the game of his life in game 2. We'll briefly talk about that in a second. Funny story about Weaver. My mom had come home and she looked at the screen. She's like, what is he, 18? I'm like, he's turning 31 in 2 weeks. She's like, oh my God, he looks, she's like, he looks so young. She likes Luke Weaver. He's now one of her new favorites.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm always impressed with Luke Weaver, because they did such a good job of turning his career around, when he came to the Yankees. And he's one of the guys I feel comfortable with coming out of the bullpen. I don't cringe. I'm like, cool, it's Luke Weaver. Let's watch him strike some people out. Let's see him do
I have the same feeling about Tonkin. I don't know why there's this underlying confidence when he comes in that I know he's not going to screw it up.
Which is amazing considering how much his first outing, how much you love that first game that he had.
So weird. It's so weird because his date, he couldn't. I don't blame that game on him though.
No,
I never did either. I thought it was unfair that no one knew who he was and they had traded for him out of nowhere. Yep. I thought it was an unfair performance.
Right. It was unfair of Boone to do that to him. It's like, here, welcome to the team.
Throw him into the fire. Yeah,
have at it.
Not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a good performance out of the bullpen. I love that Oswaldo homered too. He really got into that one too.
Yeah.
Again, Judge too. I mean, it almost feels like when we do a segment on how good Judge has been lately, I'm very torn on when we do that segment, because part of me feels like it's deserved because of how good Judge has been this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of me feels like we're going to become that show that constantly every day talks about it. But also, we're watching a historic performance.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we realize when they put those stats up of what he's doing in his last 15 games, 19 games, 20 games, he's hitting over 400 in his last like 30 games now.
Yeah.
His OPS is like over like 1.7 now. It's crazy.
Right. And when he's not hitting home runs, he's still getting on base. He's hitting the ball. He's walking even when they're not doing it intentionally. Verdugo had 2 doubles. Wells was 2 for 4 in that first game. Volpe had that awesome RBI double in the first the really good hit. They looked really good in the first game. Second game, not so great. And actually, let's move that to segment 2 so we don't make this segment too long. So we're going to do that. That's what's coming up in segment 2. Game 2, and we're going to talk about the Yankees skipping Marcus Stroman and what he's been working on. But first, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, and hit the notification so you know when those videos go up. Also, reply to the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday. If you want your questions answered for Fan Mail Friday, we do it every week. Or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions. There's a 14-day free trial, and you get top priority on Fan Mail Friday. So again, coming up next, we'll talk about Game 2 of the doubleheader and what's going on with Marcus Stroman.
If you're looking for tickets just about anything, check out the app Game Time. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and shows near you. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the moments before your event starts and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. So if you decide to go to Yankee Stadium at 7:15 for a 7:05 start or at 1:15 for a 1:05 start, you can still get tickets. And there are tickets available for this weekend series against the Texas Rangers still. You can also find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app today and get $20 off your first purchase with code LOCKEDONMLB. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Yankees. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who is all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And don't forget that you can catch every pitch of the Yankees' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. So, Stacey, I believe the day prior, the Yankees had kind of figured out they weren't going to start Marcus Stroman and they were going to push his start back. And that got revealed more when they came to the ballpark and spoke and everything like that. They claim that he's going to work on his mechanics. Now, Marcus Stroman's a veteran pitcher who's been in the league for a while, but definitely has been struggling of late. How did you take this news of him working on his mechanics and not starting Game 2 of this doubleheader? They definitely could have used him in the game, right? Because Will Warren, he looked like he pitched really well in his debut, but he didn't pitch very well in his second start. He really struggled out there. How do you feel about this? Because it's an August start where Game 2 was really a dud for the Yankees, and they really could have used Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, I like that he's working on things because, the reputation that Stroman had before he got to the Yankees was that he was a bit of a problem, and so for him to realize that I got to work on some stuff because I haven't been doing well it's now 7 starts. He's allowed 24 earned runs in 31 2/3 innings over those last 7 starts. Like, this is a long stretch for him to be having these issues. And it's not just the mechanics. he's also seen a drop in velocity, and he doesn't throw that hard to begin with. So that also seems like an issue. So I'm actually glad that he's working on stuff and that he's taking a few days to do this, because it just shows that he wants to obviously help the team, and they need to figure out what's wrong with him, because they need him. I mean, we saw that in game 2. I mean, Will Warren, I felt bad for the kid because some of his pitches were looking really good, but other pitches were not looking that good. And he had to throw a strike to Neto, and he threw it right down the middle, and then he hit the grand slam. I mean, it was like, that was just one of those bad situations where it's like, yeah, like, oh boy. Neto had the game of his life. He's scored a bunch of runs against the Mets and the Yankees. He's had like career games against both teams in New York. So, I mean, good for you. Not good for the Yankees. They couldn't really hit either in game 2, which was annoying. So it was like a double whammy of having poor Will Warren get thrown into the fire. Here, first Yankee Stadium start. Here you go. But no, I like that Stroman's working on things. I hope that they figure out what's going on with him. I hope they can figure out how to fix him. He should be starting on Saturday, I believe they said. So we'll see how that goes. But Boone said that Stroman had a good bullpen session on Tuesday. They're going to do it again today, Thursday. And he also said that Stroman is in a pretty good place right now as far as some of the things that he's been working through. They said physically he feels good, which is also good because he had injury issues also in 2023. So it's good to know that it's not a physical thing. It's just something mechanical is happening with him, and they just have to work on it.
Well, that's what bothers me more, right? Is that Boone's talking out of both sides of his mouth here, which he usually does. But Stroman, he feels great. He looks great. He's doing great. Everything's amazing with Stroman. He just, can't pitch lately and can't make a start. Like what is the actual problem? I know he needs to work on his mechanics. I understand that. But you can't sit here and tell me that he looks great. He feels great. He's doing great. Everything's great with Marcus Stroman, except he's not great.
No, but I think
what is the answer?
I think he means right now as he's working through things. I think they're figuring things out. I don't think he meant during the 7 starts.
Clearly something's up, and he doesn't want to bring it up because he doesn't want to say anything negative about his player, because God forbid we ever say anything negative about a player. That's my point, is we can't ever be remotely critical of a player who's clearly obviously very much struggling. And I think Marcus Stroman would tell you that too. I don't think he would care if you pointed out that he was struggling too. Like you said, they're going to need him. Because right now, if the playoffs started tomorrow, he wouldn't make the playoff roster.
No,
he wouldn't. So, I mean, you're going to need him going forward. You're going to need him to pitch big games. You got to have confidence he can figure it out, because he's thrown in big games before in his career. So it's not like Marcus Stroman shouldn't be able to figure it out, but they're going to need him to.
Yep. Another person who could be a good addition in September, Clark Schmidt, took a big step. He threw to live batters on Tuesday. One of those live batters was actually Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah.
It was only 20 pitches. He said today was a very big step, feeling good physically with the stuff being really good and the command being above everything else. Hopefully I could go back into what I was doing and not miss a beat. Going back to what he was doing before he got injured on May 26th, he was 5-3 with a 2.52 ERA with 67 strikeouts in 60 2/3 innings.
He was really good, really good for the Yankees. And I think people forget, because right when he got hurt is almost right when their swoon started. And it really, it affected them. It did. I mean, he was a key part in the middle of that rotation that was really helping out. Honestly, because of how well Luis Gil was pitching, people weren't really noticing how good Schmidt was, just because he was kind of being hidden by Luis Gil. He was pitching so well at the beginning of the year, and that injury really did affect them. You're likely gonna get him back right at the perfect time too in September. And again, he's gonna have a chance to fight to be in that rotation, because I think it's gonna be one of those things where whoever's playing the best going into the postseason is who's gonna be on that roster. I don't think it's gonna matter. They're not gonna play favorites. It's the same reason we said before. If Ben Rice is playing unbelievably well going into September and the month of September, there's no guarantee that Anthony Rizzo is just gonna be on the playoff roster. There's no guarantee. I mean, I think there's a good chance he makes just because of his veteran presence and stuff, especially over DJ with the way DJ's played. But there's no guarantee that Anthony Rizzo makes the roster. There's no guarantee almost anybody makes this playoff roster. And I think that's a good thing. It curates a lot of healthy competition. And if Stroman comes back and doesn't perform and Clark Schmidt, overtakes that, they're going to put Clark Schmidt on the roster. They're going to have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It feels like he's been out longer.
I agree.
When I saw May 26th, I thought, oh yeah, I guess it was May 26th. I don't know. It just feels like May 26th was 18 months ago. Like the season feels really long. And I know we're going to feel when the regular season ends, wow, this season flew by. But right now it feels like May 26th was a really, really long time ago.
That's for sure.
Ian Hamilton was working on some things I saw, having some throwing sessions. He's probably not going to be back until September as well. And Jose Trevino was saying that he's feeling better and he's working on coming back as well. But Austin Wells is doing well.
He's the starting catcher.
Austin is doing Wells in Trevino's spot, basically.
He's the starting catcher. I don't know if it's Trevino's spot anymore. I think Trevino might have been Wally pipped, and sorry, but that's how baseball works. That's baseball season. He's going to be the one that's playing, especially with how good he's been in that cleanup role. Really, since he's got taken over the starting role, there is nothing that I think Wells could do to give Trevino that job back at this point.
Yeah, no, that would be really silly. For a Boone to do. I get it's the whole he was here first kind of thing, but it's like no, you go with the hotter hand. Austin Wells is the hotter hand. He's your starter. Don't mess that up. Don't mess it up. Not that you're watching, but don't mess it up. All right, coming up next, we'll preview the finale.
If there is one.
If there is one, yes. If there is one, because the rain might be coming back with a vengeance on Thursday, but we'll talk about that next. Get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, SupplyHouse.com. SupplyHouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program. Every TradeMaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM, which stands for TradeMaster. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. And remember, you can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. All right, coming up Thursday evening, later tonight, possibly, unless the rain washes everything away. 7:05 start between Tyler Anderson and Nestor Cortez, who was skipped over just for a day for Will Warren to pitch. Interesting matchup. Cortez is better at home, usually, and it's just looking at his numbers right now is just jarring because 4-9 with a 5.16 ERA is just.
It doesn't feel like he's been that bad though, which is so crazy to think about.
Right, because those are bad numbers. You know, I mean, forget the win and loss thing, because I mean, you see other guys on other teams who have win and loss records that are bad, but their ERAs are fine because the team kind of screws things up for them. But looking at the 5.16,
it's rough.
No. That is
He's
rough.
been rough all year. Full disclosure, I do not think they're going to get this game, and I don't know what they're going to do schedule-wise to complete this, But
right, because they already played
there
in
is-
Anaheim. It's not like they can do like, hey, let's make up a game there. Like they can't even
I
do
don't know
that.
if Anaheim comes back towards the East Coast again, so it's a really rough spot
Right.
for the two teams. And around, I think they mentioned this on the broadcast on the Amazon Prime broadcast from last night. There's about like a 91% chance of rain at like 6 p.m.
Right.
So
Which was basically what it
rough
was
spot.
like on Tuesday too. So it was
Yeah.
like, you
They're
know,
in a pretty rough
I have
spot.
to give the Yankees credit, because I was supposed to go to Tuesday night's game, and I was like, they better cancel this before we all start heading down, because I've had that happen.
It's the worst.
We were lucky this when was that? I can't remember when that was, but we were heading toward the thruway, and we were about to get on the thruway, and they canceled the game, and we were able to turn around. Like we didn't get across the Tappan Zee Bridge because this was years ago, so still the Tappan Zee, and we were able to just turn around and go home. But I've had it where I've waited out rain delays. I was there for opening day in 2008, the last opening day at the old stadium, and we were there for 4 hours during the rain, and then they had to reschedule it for the next night because it was a day game, and then they rescheduled it for the next night. And I always took opening day off at work. There was one year I couldn't because someone got it in there before I did, like in February, and I was like, that's my day. Like what? So what I did was I went to work early, worked until noon, took the D train up to Yankee Stadium from 30 Rock, went to the game, came back and worked till 8 o'clock and got my 8 hours in. And my boss was like, all right, you could do that. She wasn't going to keep me away from the game because she knows that it would have been an issue if I wasn't like I couldn't go to the game.
Wasn't keeping you away from the game.
Yeah, no. So that opening day 2008, they played rain songs for, I think it was like 3 hours. It was at least 3 hours they had us sitting out there. And I'm like, why are we here? Like, just send us home. They just wanted everyone buying concessions and stuff.
And they've fooled people like that many times before. It's happened a lot, and it's very frustrating. Just for reference, the closest the Angels come to the Bronx is going to be Minnesota against the Twins, and they go to Houston to play the Astros, and they go to Chicago to play the White Sox. So they're not coming anywhere near New York the rest of the year. I don't know how they're going to get that final game, and I feel like this might be one of those scenarios where they try and wait it out.
Right. Or
and I don't know how long they have. I mean, I don't know when is there an unofficial time that Major League Baseball likes to call these games by, do you feel?
Oh, you mean like, will they start a game at like 11 o'clock? Because they've done that before.
Yeah, like what is the unofficial time? Because I see right now on my weather app, I mean, it looks like past, even at 10 p.m., there's a 35% chance of rain for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you going to do? Start the game at midnight? You know, I don't know if they're willing to do that. They might have to, though, because there's no time period where the Angels come anywhere remotely close to New York again.
One of the first years I was writing on a Yankees blog, if I recall correctly, there was a game that was rain delayed until like 11 at night, and that's when they started, and it ended at like 2 in the morning.
Please don't do that to us.
Yeah, no, don't.
But the thing is, too, they're going to have to get the game in, too, because they're so neck and neck with the Orioles. Like,
hey,
I think they'd mind it less if the Yankees were. What's up?
We don't have to worry about the game, though, do we? Because it's Fan Mail Friday, our next episode.
Yeah, we still got to cover the game, though.
Do we? We don't always cover the games on Fan Mail Friday. If we have enough questions, we could just do the whole show as Fan Mail Friday.
Yeah, send your questions in. Guys.
Yeah.
You know, I do feel like they're going to have to get the game in, too, because of how neck and neck the division race is with the Orioles. They're going to have to finish it. Whereas if the Yankees had a 10-game lead, which probably, makes that swoon look a lot worse.
Do you think if something happens, well, the Yankees are, they lose head-to-head to the Orioles anyway. So, like.
Well, yeah, but if they don't play 162 and they're tied, if the Yankees play 161 and Baltimore plays 162 and they have the same identical record, the Yankees are going to have to play.
But no, but if Baltimore beats them head-to-head, then Baltimore wins.
Well, yeah, but if Baltimore's back a game, like it's going to go overall record before anything.
Huh.
So if their overall records would be tied, the Yankees would have to finish a 162nd game, which means that
the Angels would have to come here for a game that doesn't mean
for like
anything to them.
October 1st to play a game that means absolutely nothing to them.
Oh man,
which could happen because their records are so tight that it actually could wind up happening.
Yeah, they're the same right now. They're the same. The Phillies are ahead of them by percentage points, but Baltimore and the Yankees pulled ahead of Cleveland because Cleveland got swept in their doubleheader.
Think about that.
Here I was talking about how hard it is to sweep a doubleheader, yet the Diamondbacks swept the Guardians in their doubleheader, which is not easy because the Guardians are one of the better teams in baseball. So good for and in Cleveland, Arizona did that. Yeah. So good for them.
There's a legitimate chance here, though, that the Angels might have to finish their season off in LA and then fly all the way back to New York for a completely meaningless game to themselves. And they'll play the game at like 11 a.m. too. They'll do like one of those really early starts to like get it over with. Oh, would that be a brutal spot for the Angels? That's one of those spots where you bet the mortgage on the Yankees.
Yeah.
Because where's the motivation for LA to play that game?
Right. Actually, I would just prefer the Yankees to just finish the division like 5 games ahead so they don't have to worry about this at all. Let's do that, guys.
Don't make them play the game.
Let's do that. One more time. You can catch every pitch of the Yankees hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Yankees. Like we mentioned, it's Fan Mail Friday tomorrow. Send in your questions. Leave them under the pinned comment. If you're an insider, get those questions in. Text them to us. And thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. Now go check out the Locked On MLB podcast. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. You can find the link to Locked On MLB in the description, so you don't need to search. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll see you sometime after the rain delay tomorrow.